Stephanie Licata. I'm a senior learning strategist here at Cloverleaf. I've been with Cloverleaf now for almost 6 years, and I am also a customer. So I use Cloverleaf as an external practitioner. My background's in organizational psychology. I'm also a certified ICF coach, and I use Cloverleaf as a learning and leadership consultant, as an executive leadership coach, with literally at this point thousands of human beings all over the US, and also some with some international clients. So I always say I'm slightly obsessed with Cloverleaf. So we're going to talk today about how to work better together to use Cloverleaf to strengthen manager-employee relationships. So as we know, my favorite statistic that I say over and over again is that 70% of that variance between lousy engagement and great engagement is that manager-employee relationship. And that's a statistic from Gallup. It's year over year. They keep reiterating it's still true, right? So there's so much that weighs on that manager-employee relationship. And so we're going to talk about it from a few different angles today. And we're going to talk about some new features that just got released to everybody last week on Cloverleaf to help you support that. So first, we're going to do some polls to see who's here with us in terms of your role and how you sit in your organization. And then we're going to do a feature spotlight throughout, right? So as I go through talking about this topic, I'll be using the features that I'm talking, those new features that I mentioned. We're going to be talking about the new coaching focus. So coaching focus, as you may have been using it in the past, has gotten an upgrade. So we're going to be talking about that. And we're going to be talking about something called scenarios. And we'll talk about leveraging Cloverleaf to improve those manager-employee relationships from an individual perspective. Now, everybody here may also have a boss, so this may apply to everybody. And then we'll talk about it from the manager perspective. And we'll also talk about it from the talent leader coach perspective and how you can leverage. And in every situation, we're going to talk about how you can leverage these specific features. Sometimes when a feature rolls out, we're like, wait a minute, how do I use this? How can I use this? And so we're here today to help you understand and sort of maybe spark your creativity of how you can use these features. I want to reiterate that if you're just using the email of Cloverleaf, is a small fraction of the value and the capability and the magic of Cloverleaf. It's kind of like taking all your money and keeping it in the cash account and not investing it and watching it grow and blossom and bloom. You really got to go where the magic is and get in there and go inside and use some of the features. Then we'll get some of your feedback and Q&A. And then in June, we've been doing something. We started it 2 months ago. We're going to split off into role-based webinars. And so we'll give you the dates for those. Okay, so we're going to jump right in with our polls. Tell us a little bit about you in terms of your role. So if you would tell us your role, are you a senior or C-suite talent learning leader? If you would pop and just quickly let us know. Are you a director or manager level talent or learning leader? Are you a manager of a team? Are you an individual contributor? Or are you a coach or consultant? So if you would just let us know, pop on the screen and let us know. So you're going to add that role onto the poll. So if everyone would just let us know what role best describes you. So it's not so much your title, it's your role. If you manage people, are you an individual contributor? Are you a talent leader at the director level or manager level, or you're a senior C-suite talent leader? A few more people. We can get it to 80%. I know we can. So Ken, I would actually put yourself as a manager because I would often, even though you might not have direct reports, you are managing humans. So I would record yourself as a manager, even though, because you are having to manage humans, even though you don't have direct reports. I coach someone who does that, and I say, I don't care if people report to you, you're managing humans. So Awesome. All right. Okay, we could end the poll. We're at 81%. All right. So the individual contributors have it, followed up by the managers. All right. Thank you so much. You could share if we share those results. Did we share the results already? We shared them?
Yeah, we
Yes.
did.
Okay, great. Okay, great. All right, let's move on and we will get right in there to how we're going to start this. So I'm assuming everybody here, unless you own the company, that now some of you might be coaches or consultants, but and maybe you are the owner of your company, but most people here have some kind of manager or leader that they may report to. So this probably will apply to most of you, right? So a lot of times we want to try to adapt how we communicate to work more effectively with our manager. And we know that customization or adapting our communication style can help us be more effective with whoever we're talking to in life, right? Not just at work. So the shift we want to try to make is sometimes we just are trying to communicate better, just as a general effort in life. But it's too broad of an intention, right? Sometimes it's just often a hope or just this aspiration that we kind of put out into the universe, and it's not specific enough. It's kind of like, oh, I want to try to be better at managing my calendar. That's not something that happens just by saying that. You actually have to be more intentional. So you have Cloverleaf. If you're here in this webinar, that means you have access to Cloverleaf. So you want to consider using Cloverleaf to focus on one relationship. In this case, you might want to focusing on that relationship with your manager. One behavior, what's something specific? Maybe it's expectations or collaboration. If you're a project manager, maybe it's, I want to try to be able to set expectations earlier or be more proactive about crises or something like that. I want to also maybe focus on an upcoming interaction. Maybe it's a specific project. Maybe it's a specific interaction. Maybe it's a specific conversation even, right? So I need to be able to make it more specific and targeted. Otherwise, it's kind of like saying, well, I'm trying to get fit this year, right? That's very vague. It's like when you talk about SMART goals, right? We want to get more specific. And so these features are going to actually help you do that. So I'm going to share with you that I'm going to do the demo in this first role. I'm not going to demonstrate the features every time I go through a new role. So if you want to understand the feature and how it works, and if you haven't used it yet, pay really close attention because I'm going to demonstrate the feature in this first individual role because this role applies to the most amount of people because most people have a boss, right? So even if you are a manager, you probably have a manager. And maybe if you're, a senior director level talent leader, you're probably reporting to somebody else. Okay. So here's what you want to think about before I go into the feature. I want you to think about maybe you've recently set either a performance goal or maybe you've set some kind of goal for yourself. Maybe it's not a formal performance goal sitting somewhere in a system, right? If you notice, sometimes you set those performance goals and they're sitting somewhere, right? Maybe it's on a piece of, probably not a piece of paper, but it's probably, it's in a system somewhere, or, it's maybe you get nudges about it from somewhere, but it's somewhere. Or maybe you've just set a casual goal and maybe it's on an agenda, running one-on-one an agenda. Maybe it's just in your mind. Maybe it's in a notebook if you're a paper person. But you want to think, hey, how can I use coaching focus to actually support a goal? Maybe there's a high stakes project coming up that I really don't want to mess up. I really want to get it right. So I'm going to use Cloverleaf for this. So you're going to choose a specific coaching focus tied to your manager. So what does that mean? Okay, so we're going to show you where coaching focus is. So it used to be over here, right? It used to be over here. Now it's over here. So when you click on coaching focus, you're going to click on it. Now, it used to be that you would just pick a little box. I want to develop people. Okay. Now, it's different now. When you click on create a coaching focus, here's the deal. You get to say something really specific. Okay. So let's say that I'm this is an individual situation. I'm trying to better understand how to meet the expectations of my manager, or how to better communicate with my manager, or how to better understand, right, my manager and how they work, right, or better align with my manager's expectations, right? I want to better align with my managers and if, let's say my manager is Jordan, with Jordan's expectations. And let's say Jordan works really fast. Some of you may have managers that work really fast, or they talk really fast, or they're always traveling, or it seems like, I can't keep up with it. I want to better align with Jordan's expectation and the speed at which they communicate. Okay. So I can make sure that I am completing tasks and work efficiently. So maybe that's where you feel like you're misaligned with your manager. Okay. So you're saying very specifically what you experience to be maybe the misalignment with your manager. So you're saying that. Okay. And once you type that in there, Cloverleaf's going to kind of help you crystallize that. So it's going to ask you a few questions. It's going to say, okay, which of these show up when you and Jordan are out of sync? Well, Jordan's priorities shift and I'm not looped in, or I'm unsure what done looks like until after. That's what it is. I feel like I think I know what he wants, but then after I submit it, he's like, no, this isn't what I meant. That's what I feel like all the time. That's what it is. What's the biggest thing making it hard to stay aligned with Jordan right now? So yes, we don't have a consistent rhythm for syncing because he's always on the go. Sometimes he cancels our calls. Sometimes his style moves fast. Yes, this is actually more what it is. His style moves fast, and sometimes I miss key details, or I want to ask a question, but sometimes I don't want him to think I don't know what I'm talking about. That's really what it is. Yeah, that's really what it is. What would better alignment look like with Jordan actually look like? I always know what Jordan needs and when. I don't have to ask. Jordan feels confident. I'm on top of things. We have a shared way of communicating that feels natural. That's what I really want. I want a natural sort of ease of communication. But this is actually what I want. I actually want to be clear, and don't want to have to go back with questions. Okay. All right. So the Cloverleaf is asking for some clarification and understanding what my challenge is. Okay. And that's really where I'm struggling. And maybe I'm asking these things because we do have a high stakes project coming up. And maybe we had a lower stakes project where I didn't really know what was going on. And Jordan maybe gave me some critical feedback. And I really want to make sure the next project doesn't go the same way. So what this is doing is this is informing my coaching tips. So the emails that you get with your coaching tips, this is going to give me coaching tips specifically about me and Jordan so that I can understand how to tweak my behavior, my questions, my interactions, so that I can actually shape how I work with Jordan. So before, my coaching tips may have been interesting, but they didn't have a target or a focus to them. So now they're focused, but it's happening. See, it says here 3 weeks. So now what's happening here is I want to make some changes. If you notice here, this number here, it says 5 coaching tips, 5 coaching nudges selection. See this number, it's going up. So once this number gets to 15, that's 3 weeks. So it's 5 business days in 3 weeks. Once it gets to 15, I'm going to be able to actually make some changes. So once it keeps populating, I'm going to make some changes. And I can actually say that, you don't want this high stakes project, it's actually longer than 3 weeks. So I want to work on this. And maybe it's going to be 5 weeks. And so maybe I want to go beyond the 15. So I'm going to click this. Once it gets to 15, it's going to let me type in this box. So it actually will also check in with you and ask you how it's going. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a minute. And so it's creating a plan to help me sync with Jordan's fast communication style and clarify communication. It focuses on that mismatch, that misalignment. And it also is going to help me explore ideas before sort of landing that, landing on one approach, right? So it's going to help me in that gap and help guide me. Okay. I'm going to say, hey, uh, I would like 5 weeks. I would like to extend the plan to 5 weeks. Right. So now uh, it's going to increase the coaching nudges. Okay, so now it's increasing the nudges, right? Right. So it's going to increase those. Jason, is there anything I'm missing just about the feature that I'm not sharing that I should be sharing?
Um, you can have more than one coaching focus going
Yes.
at any time. You can be as general as you want. So
Mhm.
most of the time, folks just want more coaching just in general about a specific person or a team. You can be as general or specific with your coaching focuses as
Mhm.
you want to be.
So how does that work though if there's more than one working at a time? How does it decide which one to give you?
What I generally set up or recommend during setup is because you can extend the timing, you can also extend it to send this coaching focus at 7 a.m. and then coaching focus number two, send this one at 12 p.m. on Tuesdays or something like that.
Got it.
And Cloverleaf will take all that into consideration and um, create that plan for you.
Got it. Okay, good. And you can do that all, I think, in the managed delivery settings, correct? It's right
That
here.
or you can tell it via the chat that you just had open as well
Right.
as you're editing it and making
So you could
changes.
say what you want. Like you could say
Yeah.
what time, what days, and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You could say email. Okay. So I just did that here, right? And so you're choosing it specific tied to your manager. So for example, I gave some other specific coaching focuses. I want to communicate more clearly with my manager. I want to better understand how my manager makes decisions. I want to align on expectations with my manager before starting work, right? So now, so I'm going to pause there to see if anybody has any questions, right? Anybody have any questions just to see um, if they have any questions. If you can pop them in the chat, if you have any questions at all. If you have questions, you can keep asking and Jason will also answer them. So now let's say I have to have a conversation now with Jordan and I want to practice that conversation because I'm still a little nervous. So maybe I want to practice that conversation. I have a one-on-one with my manager and I want to clarify expectations. I have to push back on a deadline that isn't realistic for me and ask for more time and support. So this could be an actual conversation that's happening because maybe, again, maybe I got a coaching tip that's sharing with me, hey, you may need to approach Jordan about a deadline and share with a little bit about, prioritization or asking for support. Okay. Um, yes, Sydney, that's correct. A coaching focus could be something like, I want to better interact with Sue, you know, on my team. And Jason, can you clarify if someone's not on their team, as long as their visibility settings are open, can they set a coaching focus about someone on someone else's team?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So yes, as long as someone's visibility settings are set such that they're visible to other teams, yes, you can do that. So if someone's like on finance can say that about someone in marketing. You can choose anyone that is visible to you. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to share you through another feature. So now let's say, as I'm getting these coaching tips, I need to have a conversation with Jordan. Things are moving fast, and I do need to push back on a deadline and ask for some support. We're moving fast on this project, and things are moving quickly, and I need to have this conversation. So now I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go into scenarios. Okay. So I'm going to have a scenario or a practice conversation with Jordan. Okay. So I'm going to add a scenario and I want to practice with Jordan. Oop, sorry. I want to practice with, I need to push back on a deadline and ask for some more support. Okay. So I want to practice with Jordan. Okay. And by the way, we've also linked the help documents to these two features in your resource, and Jason is sharing them in the chat. Okay. All right. So I'm going to create the scenario. This is basically a chat, a practice chat. Okay. So I'm following this whole potential situation through. So I need to clearly communicate to adjust the deadline and the rationale behind it. I need to request additional support from Jordan, but I need to stay collaborative and not like I'm not dumping work on my manager. I have to work with Jordan to find a workable plan. Okay. Now, it's going to use Jordan's specific assessment results to let me know a little bit about that Jordan values building genuine relationships and also tends to accommodate requests to preserve rapport. But Jordan may also get frustrated with repeated last minute changes, right? Jordan works quickly. He appreciates being brought in early to negotiate scope or timeline changes and responds best when being asked rather than told. Okay. So it's good for me not to go in and say, okay, I can't do this. Take care of it. Jordan prefers open conversations when expectations or plans have to shift, and that he also may hesitate to ask for help, but is willing to step up for the team if asked directly. Jordan dislikes sudden changes. Okay. All right. I'm a little nervous, but I'm going in. Okay. Hey, Avery, is this about the timeline on the Q3 roll rate? I noticed the Slack thread this morning and figured we might need to talk through what shifting and what support you're thinking about. Hi, yes, since my counterpart is out sick, I am covering for that person and am a little behind. I think I just may need one extra day and just wanted to share this ahead of time. Okay, so Jordan is acknowledging that I'm in a tough spot, um, and um, making sure a day is enough. And he is asking me to be specific. What kind of support would help? And then he is asking if I'm asking to move the launch or just my deliverable. I am just referring to my deliverable. My counterpart may or may not return in time, and I just need a little more time for the reporting aspect of my part of the project. If there is someone that could assist, that would be great, but I am happy to cover it. I just will need the extra time. Extra time. So it's reporting. Okay. So the person's letting me know they're not thrilled, right? So, and he's giving me a choice. Would I want someone from Jared's team to pull some data, or do I just want to wait till the end of day Wednesday to wrap it? If so, okay, great. If someone from Jared's team was available, and that helped us to stay on track, that would be very helpful. Okay. Okay, so he's telling me I have to be super clear and exactly what I'd hand off and by when and how I'll ensure everything aligned. Can I count on you to outline handoff steps on the in the shared doc this afternoon? Yes, I can get everything in there by 2 p.m. and I am happy to meet on Teams with the person from Jared's team to go over everything, if that would help. Okay, so the person is reiterating that they're going to connect with the person on Jared's team. We're going to do the walkthrough, even if it's just 15 minutes. Just make sure you're part of the reporting. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, so, it's a little sticky. The person clearly wasn't happy. It's not my fault that the person's out sick, but here we go. I'd rather have a heads up than a surprise issue. So I'm going to end the scenario. Now, this is the best part of the scenario. Now, part of what's helpful is Jordan was clearly asking me for how I was going to handle it. And what specifically, he was asking me a lot of specific questions. And I think that part of what we sometimes are afraid about going into these conversations is, what are they going to ask us, right? This is the best part, is the evaluation. Okay, so it gives you an evaluation. So I got a 4.3. Is this a 4.3 it's out of 5, right, Jason? I think it's out of 5.
Yes. Yeah,
So
it's out of five.
it says you gave Jordan an early heads up, staying practical. I adjusted quickly. Jordan asked for specificity. So I could tell right away, Jordan just wanted brass tacks, right? I was just like, all right, I can get this in by 2. All right, great. Clearly communicate the need to adjust the deadline and rationale. You shared the reason, covering for the sick counterpart and the area impacted, but you did not clearly state the exact new date or time or the downstream impact until Jordan probed. So that's telling me I might want to go in and share the impact, right? And that would be helpful in that conversation. I requested additional support and I worked with Jordan to find the plan. So it's giving me like red light, a green light on that, yellow light, partial on this. And it's scoring me on attunement. I stayed flexible, and it's saying what worked, the things that I said that worked, and what to work on, right? Next time it says open with the exact deliverable, like be very exact. Jordan wants specifics, the precise due date and time. The 2 options, extra day versus specific handoff. Clarity, you clarified it was your internal deliverable. Here's what worked. Here's what to work on, right? Be more specific in terms of the deadline. Composure, I kept my composure. I stayed calm, right? I didn't get rattled. And the solution, we came up with the solution together, right? I add a plan B. If no one's available, I'll do X tonight and still deliver by Y. And it gave me some other recommendations. When you first raise the issue, include what you've already done to mitigate. I've already deprioritized other work. I've put XYZ on hold. And this reduces feeling like I just was a last minute ask, right? So this is super helpful because this really is almost like your notes for preparation. I feel like the evaluation is actually more helpful than the actual conversation, because it tells you, here's what worked, here's what you might want to work on, and this can be super helpful. Okay, so again, this is sometimes just, even when you're having the actual conversation, you can almost sense like the feelings that you would have or go through when you're having the conversation. And so, some of these real interactions, like I need clarity on shifting priorities. Like this is exactly what I used, right? This is a key project. It has a tight deadline. So you run the scenario and you adjust, how direct should I be? How much detail should I prefer? Was very clear in this scenario that this person wants the detail upfront and very detailed, just tell me the skill, the exact thing you need. And I should clearly, with this person, lead with data and the options right away. Okay. Whereas someone else with different assessment results might want more rapport building. This person clearly wanted the information upfront, right away. Okay. Any questions at all about this? Any questions? Okay. And again, this is completely private. Nobody will know like, oh, they practiced having a conversation with me. Nobody will know this. Okay. Nobody will know that they practiced having a conversation. You practice having a conversation with their assessment results. Nobody will know. Okay. So just so you know, it's private. Okay. The most important part, though, is to review the evaluation as I just did with you. I showed you, and ask yourself what landed better than usual? Where did I still miss alignment? What am I going to adjust when I actually have the conversation? Okay. And this changes, you stop guessing how to communicate. It doesn't mean the conversation is going to be perfect, but you start adapting based on the person. And, I did one of these. I work in a few organizations that have accounts because I'm a consultant and they have accounts. And I've done a few of these, and it really helped me because the scenario that I was running asked me questions that I was not prepared to answer, and I was really helpful for me to actually think about those questions. And you really start adapting based on the person, the moment, and also the outcome. So, look, we know that assessments are not an exact science. You're not trying to match the person exactly. I will tell you, as an experiment, in our Train the Trainer program, I just had a session last week, and there were two individuals, one of whom is a PhD, and the two individuals were trying to basically test it. And the individual was running the scenario, and she was having a conversation with a person, with someone she works with, and that person was in the room. So she picked the person to run the scenario with. And he confirmed that is how he would respond. so um, so it's not about is that exactly how they would respond. It's about you practicing your responses and how you're responding and then getting the evaluation, right? So that you're actually evaluating your responses, right? So it's more about you evaluating your communication, okay? Okay. So if you're a manager, okay, um, and yeah, yes, Angie had make a great point. It's not weird at all, Angie. There are many counselors and people that use our platform. So you can reach out to us as well about that. So that's a great point. Okay, so if you're a manager, it's about making expectations and preferences clear so your team can also deliver with confidence. So I'm not going to go and run all of the features again, but I'm going to share with you different contexts, right? So the problem is most managers think they're clear. Now, I was a manager. I was a director, and I managed a global team of 12, all during the pandemic. Most managers think they're clear, right? And sometimes their team members experience inconsistency. Even if you're a manager and you have a manager, you might experience your manager being inconsistent. the gap this gap sometimes can slow how you're able to move, how you're able to execute, how you're able to get things done, especially if you're a hybrid team or a remote team. You're not in the same physical space, time zone, even continent as your manager. And sometimes that means you have to do work over again, and then trust can lower. Okay. The shift here is clarity is not what you say once. We know saying something once is not how you manage people. We all know that also sending an email is not one email is not communication. My famous quote, email is not email is for notification, not communication, right? Commune means to come together. Email is for here are the notes for the agenda. Here is the presentation for your review. Here are the numbers so that you can do your report. It is not for communication, is not for conflict management, problem solving. Email 90% of the time is completely misused and is a waste of your time. Okay. You are all like the thief of your productivity is email. So one email is not a communication of a change. So clarity is not what you say once or send one email about. It's what your team can consistently act on. Okay. So as a leader, you might want to set up a coaching focus the same way I just did and showed you about Jordan. So think about the people on your team. If you manage people, think about the people on your team. What is going on in my team right now that's going to make the most difference? Okay. Have I gotten feedback from team members recently that could influence my coaching focus? Maybe think about team members who have said, I need more of this from you. Or maybe you've gotten feedback in a performance review, recently, where it's like, I need more direct feedback, or I need more acknowledgement or recognition, or I need more clear expectations? Is there a behavior or best practice that you want to sharpen? Maybe you just need to be reminded to give, acknowledgement or give recognition. So then choose a behavior. You can tie it to your whole team or you can tie it to one or two people. Okay. I want to set clear expectations with the product team, with the marketing team. Okay. I want Sue and John to understand how I make decisions. Maybe it's only two people that really don't get you. Maybe everybody else does. Maybe you're like, why do these two people always never know what I'm talking about, but everybody else does, right? You can actually focus on those two people and it'll give you tips. It'll rotate. It'll give you a tip about Sue and a tip about John the next day, right? So you can actually choose, right? We know that some people get you and some people don't. It's frustrating. I want to give my team more actionable feedback. Okay. This will help you focus in. Okay. So here's the thing. You can go to a course about how to give feedback, but that is a general course. The course isn't how to give Sue and John feedback. No, you're never going to that course. It doesn't exist. So you need to be able to get this information about those two people from Cloverleaf because that's where it sits. Don't go to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not informed about Sue and John. It doesn't know anything about them. Even if you tell them that is your bias that you're putting into ChatGPT. The only thing that's informing Cloverleaf is their inputs, okay? And so you don't want to go to ChatGPT to ask these questions, okay? Cloverleaf is informed by their inputs. So then let's say now you want to have a conversation with your team or a person, right? A person, it's not a team. And so you want to have a conversation with Sue, right? Let's use the scenario then before the key interactions. So use a real upcoming interaction. I have to have a one-on-one with Sue, and I want to make sure that I set the clear expectation for the project kickoff because we always seem to have a misunderstanding. Or I have to give some critical feedback to John on a project, and there were some missteps, there were some mistakes, and I want to make sure going into the next project, it doesn't happen. I need to speak to Sarah about shifting priorities, and I want to make sure my communication is clear. Okay. And so you run the scenario like I just did with Jordan, and then you ask yourself, how do I frame my expectations? What level of detail is needed? Okay. And then that evaluation that you get is going to coach you on how to have that conversation. Right. And then as you reflect and refine, you then apply the behavior shifts and you look at the key takeaways. Don't drive yourself crazy. Don't take 17 pages of notes. It's not about scripting yourself. It's about shifting the approach. Okay. You ask yourself, where do I need to be more clear? I need to give the details up front, right? Or is there a language I need to adjust? I need to not say do more, do this. I need to say do X by Y, right? Or is there anything I need to add or subtract from the conversation? I need to ask more probing questions. I need to ask for their collaboration. This changes that your team spends less time trying to figure out what the heck you're saying, and it adds more time to actually delivering results. Okay. So if you think about people on your team who maybe seem confused, sometimes remember, adults learn differently. You may have people on your team that learn through conversation that always kind of ask you for a quick chat, and you may be annoyed by that. That's an adult learning style. That's not a personality flaw. Okay. Some adults learn through speaking. They don't learn through written chat. And so when they speak, they can learn in 5 minutes. If you send them 52 messages, they're not learning. It's confusing for them. So some adults are auditory learners. Some adults are visual learners. Some adults are kinesthetic learners. Some adults are reading, writing learners. So you have to honor that adult brains work differently. And so if you understand that and honor that, then you have to customize your style to different people. You may say, I don't have time to do that. That's part of leading people. Sorry, it's just part of leading humans. And we're not getting the robots anytime soon. So this is just how it works. So you got to just understand that this is part of what it looks like to customize to human beings. Wherever there's humans, there's going to be complexity, right? So that complexity is going to be there, and we've got to be able to manage that. All right. So for coaches and talent leaders, right? And this is so important because if you're still an individual contributor or a manager, This is so important because you could use some of these sort of tips. And if you're even a leader and you're in a program, or you're a manager and you want to do some training with your team, this is a little bit of a sort of a bird's eye view of how you could use these things to develop people. So you want to scale stronger relationships, but you don't want to add more overhead, build more content, do more stuff. Right. The reality is you don't have the capacity to actually coach every single conversation. But performance is actually shaped by these dynamic conversations. So the opportunity here is to actually use the two features that I just shared with you to extend between coaching or training sessions, to actually equip managers to lead more effectively and to create consistency across teams. And this is all without adding more programs, workshops, or admin work, or having to create content, projects, programs, slide decks, go scour the YouTube for videos. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a scalable system for coaching engagements, training programs, when also developing people internally. Now, leaders, managers, listen up. You could also take these and create little mini exercises for your own team if you want to develop your team. So you want to anchor development in real work. So if we think about development plans, people get scared when we say development plan. They think it's a horrible thing. No, but it's also abstract, right? Because we write this long document, but it's abstract and it lives in a document and it's not connected to relationships. Have people set their coaching focus tied to the actual manager relationships, the people that they actually manage. Communication clarity. If people are struggling, if leaders need to actually develop themselves with communication, have that coaching focus tied to that, right? So if you're trying to develop people, actually have them do it in a way that's related to the people that they're responsible for. Have it tied to feedback effectiveness. Have it also tied to collaboration challenges, to the relationships that are critical to them every single day. So make this expectation. Before important conversations, prepare using scenarios. Preparation is the key to everything. Okay. It's because we live in this back-to-back world where we go from meeting to meeting to meeting, and we don't have 5 minutes to think to ourselves, what do I need to know? And who do I need to be going into this meeting? Who am I speaking to? How do I need to adjust my communication style to who I'm having this conversation with? So, for example, before you run one-on-one, run a scenario. Before you give feedback, prepare your approach. And if you don't have time to use scenarios head on, just go to Discover. If you don't have time, just say, hey, how should I give difficult feedback to Jordan? Right? If you don't have full time for scenarios, for that 5 minutes that I just did, this takes 4 seconds, right? Just type that question in. That's intentional communication. We have completely fly by the seat of my pants, which are also on fire because my schedule's on fire. Like, we operate on fire all day long, right? We have these conversations that are completely unintentional. And then we say, oh, I wish I didn't say that, right? But if we just take 4 seconds to type this question in this platform that our company invested in us to give us, we could be a little bit more intentional and have a conversation with Jordan that might make a difference. And we could kind of give it a little bit of a thought. And that 12 seconds, maybe, that we took to just ask that question can make a big difference. Before a team decision, think through how you'll lead it, right? Standardize preparation for key moments. Standardize. Operationalize preparation. Wouldn't that be awesome if we actually blocked our calendar for preparation? I do, because I realize how important it is, and because I walk the talk, because I know that it's not healthy for me to go into conversations, trainings without preparation. Okay, because I am not going to tell you to prepare and not prepare myself. Okay, because I want to be intentional when I go into these conversations. So if your manager is not on Cloverleaf, it's a good question. You can also, in Discover, you can describe the type of person that they are. You can also set up a coaching focus that is something like, I want to get better at collaborating, with people who are unclear about setting expectations, right? So you can ask a general question about a certain type of person in Discover, right? To help you focus yourself or get feedback about yourself for yourself about a certain type of person. Um, so also, if you are a talent leader or a coach and you are doing coaching programs or team meetings or coaching sessions, you can ask, for example, what interaction did you prepare for? Like, you build it into a cadence. What did you do differently? Right? What changed in the outcome? So you assign them to use these features, and then you ask them in a coaching session, what interaction did you prepare for? What did you do differently? What changed? Okay. And then track the behavior, not just did you use it, say, track for improved communication clarity, faster alignment within teams, reduced friction and collaboration, and also more confident managers, right? You want to look for, hey, how is the manager changing how they're seeing themselves in terms of their teams? And this is how you actually show development is working, not just happening, not just that we're participating, but we're actually using what we're learning. Okay. And so this is also how you could do it. So let's say whether you're coaching or you're training in a program, you introduce the coaching focus feature, you invite people to select a behavior in a relationship. So for example, let's say you're doing a leadership communication program, you invite everybody to set a coaching focus that's tied to maybe some, you know, topic that you're, focusing on. If you're coaching somebody, maybe you are inviting them, it's a leadership coaching program, or it's a person who is being groomed to be a leader, or maybe you're helping them set a coaching focus on a goal that they are setting for the coaching engagement, right? And maybe in the weeks sort of following that, you're maybe inviting them. Let's say they come to you and say, oh, I have this problem with this coworker. Great, let's use scenarios. Like, you could actually, by the way, I use Cloverleaf in live trainings and in live coaching sessions. I pop it right up. Okay. Someone starts talking about a person and they start saying, oh, I can't believe this person did blah, blah, blah. Well, all my clients are on Cloverleaf said, oh, let's just bring the person up. Let's see what's happening, right? And we quickly get out of the story and the drama, and we get right into just the solution. And we talk about this person's tendencies and how we can kind of be more solution focused. So ask them to use scenarios before real interactions, and maybe apply one behavior shift each week. So you can kind of go through that evaluation screen, and you can coach right from there. You can train right from there. And then in an ongoing basis, you can actually reflect in team sessions, in training sessions, in a coaching cadence, and you can also update the coaching focus as priorities or goals shift. Or Jason shared, you can layer the coaching focuses, right, as new goals come about, right? And what this changes is development actually moves from one-time learning, from a workshop that ends, to continuous application. We actually get to apply it, and it's contextual to the people I work with, to the things that are important to me, to not just the PowerPoint that I completely forgot. It now is living in my day-to-day work. And it's general advice to context-specific action. Okay? I know I just gave you a lot of information. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. So any questions at all? Any questions?